All right. Welcome back to a day in the life of the asset manager and an underwriter. As you are probably familiar, we recently changed from once a week to the third Monday of every month. And lucky enough today, it's 420, which is the third Monday of this month. So thank you for joining us. We have some very exciting information to talk about. Some very relevant and pertinent things and things that are actually going on. And we're excited to kind of run you guys through that and how to navigate them and how to help you be successful on your multifamily property. So, Cindy, take us away.
Thank you so much. We are recording, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, because we're going to 1 hour, we want to have it so that we're able to really dig into things and really discuss some different aspects of asset management. So the first part of the call is going to be a case study where we're going to tell you some things that have happened at a property, maybe two properties. And then after that, we're going to discuss the solution, how we came up with the solution. And then at the end of the call, probably the last 10, 15 minutes, we'll open that up for any questions. The questions can be relevant to what we actually talked about, or if there's something else that maybe you need a little instruction on or some clarity on that doesn't have anything to do with today's call, but is about multifamily, doesn't even have to be asset management, we're happy to talk about that. So that's the whole purpose of this meeting. If you're able to put your cameras on, that would be great. It just helps us so that we're not talking to note takers. So thank you, Catherine. I appreciate that. So today, what we're going to talk about are property management companies. And when you buy a multifamily, you're going to have a third party professional property management company. You just hire them. And actually, if you are interested at the end of the call, we'll give you an opportunity to put in the chat and we'll send you our survey. Our what we is kind of a cheat sheet that we use when we interview property management companies. We always interview three before we hire. So that's how we kind of gauge, we have questions that we ask them. And if you'd like a copy of that questionnaire, we'll be more than happy to send that to you just for attending today. So I want to talk about a property that we have. This is real life. This isn't just a made up thing, but I'm not going to tell you the names of the properties just to protect the guilty and the innocent. So, so we bought the property and we hired a property management company and we decided that we would keep the on-site. So typically, if you have over 100 units, you're going to have two employees. One is going to be the on-site property manager. It's like the leasing agent. So we'll call them the leasing agent. And then you're going to have maintenance. And then as you add more property, as your property's bigger, adding more units, you're going to have more people. So this particular property is more than 100. So we actually have a leasing agent and an office manager, and then we have a lead maintenance, and then we have a maintenance technician. So there's actually four people on payroll at this particular property. So we hired this company, we interviewed them, we interviewed several, we did our minimum of three. I think we actually did a few extras, but really felt like this would be a good blend for us. We're very much family oriented. So our philosophy is we take an apartment complex and we turn it into a community. So that's the whole premise behind high caliber multifamily is we want people to love where they live. We want, because a lot of people will, go to work, come home, sleep, go back to work, come home, sleep. And it's just kind of a place that holds their stuff. And we're finding that there's a whole generation, a whole section of people that will probably never own a home, that they will probably have, live in an apartment. So why not provide for them an apartment that is beautiful, that's safe, that is actually a community. So we do lots of activities on our properties, usually a minimum of 3 a month. So people know their neighbor. We get together. We encourage the sense of community. And so with this property management company, we felt like they understood our vision, and that they wanted to help us create that because we're not there. We don't know how to sign leases. We don't know, I'm not cleaning out toilets. So they are our boots on the ground. So we had this property. When we bought it, it was 95% occupied, which is really good. And it was already cash flowing. So that's one of the things that we look for at high caliber multifamily is whether or not the property is already cash flowing, which is hard to find nowadays. But if we find one that's cash flowing, we're very interested in that. So it was cash flowing. Uh, the the leasing agent, the office manager that was there had been there for like 14 years, long time. She knew every tenant, every children's names of tenants, dogs' names of tenants, what car they drove. I mean, she really did invest a lot of time as the office manager, knowing the residents. And sometimes that is a double-edged sword. And this is the case study that we're going to talk about today. So you have to think about she's been there 14 years. So she has a lot of loyalty to the property, not necessarily to who owns the property, but to the people that live there because she's just been there so long. So the first red flag that we had was we had about 10 people renew their leases early. And we've discovered what she did is she called, said, "Hey, we have new owners. I know they're going to raise the rent. So come in now and we'll do your lease at your current rent." Now, those of you that are in multifamily know that we never do a lease at the same rent. You always are going to have a small percentage. We're not going to raise it, $300, but we are going to raise the rent 2 or 3%, every time just to keep up the cost of maintaining the property because our costs are going to go up every year. So she had about 10 people come in and sign at their current rent, and some of them were extremely below market. I'm talking $300 below market. So these were her friends. She called them up. "Hey, come in." So that was a little bit of a red flag. The other thing is she had no delinquencies at the end of the month and had not for years. We're talking maybe less than $1 at the end of the month. And we have 8 properties. This was the eighth. So prior to that, we had 7. And I have never had a property that did not have at least one person that was delinquent. Now, they may not be all the way delinquent. They may not owe all their rent, but there would be a residual amount. Maybe they owed a couple $100 or something. But for them to actually owe no less than $1, and we're talking month over month, year over year. And so I kept asking her, what do you do? How are you doing this that you're able to not have delinquencies? And she's like, "Well, I just talk to them and, explain to them they need to pay the rent and they pay their rent." And so we had this conversation, and I not only had, this conversation like in a Zoom call, but I actually was at the property, like sitting in her office and talking to her and asking her how she does it. It just seemed too good to be true. Just seemed absolutely too good to be true. So then we went to the property. We were on a site visit, and we had several things we needed to accomplish, but where there were about 5 of us there, and I had one of the people that were with me, I said, your job is to find out how she is not having delinquencies. Like, dig through the paperwork, figure it out, because there's got to be a way that she is able to do this because I don't have any properties. And I could see maybe once in a year, you'd be like, woohoo, we have no delinquencies. But year over year, month over month, it just made no sense to me. So she started digging. We left the property with no answer, still could not figure out. So, asked the questions again. Like the next month came around, there was less than $1 delinquent. How are you doing that? Well, I just, tell everyone they got to pay their rent. Well, in the meantime, so we started out at 95. Everyone's paying their rent on time, but we had notices to vacate. And that always is going to happen. Whenever there's a change in ownership, people move. Some people, they just don't like change. They are afraid of what that change might be. This particular property, they're going to be sad they left because we are doing upgrading. We have put in a pickleball court. We are installing a new playground. I mean, we are doing things that are really making it a community. But I do understand there are people that there's some fear there, and we don't know what conversations she was having with residents because we're not there all the time. And the fact that she called about 10 of her friends and said, hey, get in here so I can do your lease at your current rate, kind of was a clue that, perhaps she's not really talking that well about us and about the property. And so, as we had noticed to vacates, she was not leasing the units. So now our occupancy starts to drop. And every month, down, 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 every month, it keeps dropping less and less. And so she is not leasing at all. So have a conversation with her, and I'm like, how come you're not leasing? You always were at 95. Why are we now at 90? Oh, well, people, they're moving, they're, got done with school, they're leaving. She had a reason. She always had a reason, but I knew that it wasn't the right reason because it just didn't even make sense. So I talked with the property management company because remember, she's not my employee. We hire the property management company and she is their employee. So I talked to the property management company and I'm like, look, she's not leasing and it's going to cost you the property. Like we can't just continue to have people move out and not have people move in. So what they did is they had someone go from their business, stay like spend a week with her, every day walking units with her and talking with people. And she came away saying, I don't know, she doesn't talk bad about the property. Of course, she knows that there's someone there. So I'm not sure. We actually sent a secret shopper. So we hired someone to go in as a secret shopper, and she completely failed with the secret shopper. Um, didn't encourage them, to sign the lease, to explain what the benefits were. She basically just walked, said, here's the apartment, just stood there while they looked at it, and then walked back to the leasing office. Any questions? No, no, and left. So that was really when we found out. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. It's okay. You can hire a secret shopper. So, I mean, that could be if you know someone that's boots on the ground where you are, or if you have an investor in that area, just have them go be a secret shopper, or if they have a friend that can go and be a secret shopper. All I got to do is say, hey, I want to lease a unit. Now, one of the things that we do, this will give away one of our tactics, is when we will secret shop, and I will take Tyler with me. Now, Tyler is my son. And so my husband and I will go with Tyler, and he will say, I'm looking for an apartment for my parents. And so I let him kind of be the driver where he asks all the questions. And then I'm just listening to all the answers. And so that's how we secret shop. And that's how we find out like what the competition's doing. So there's lots of different ways to secret shop, but we actually had an independent person go. So so we're looking at all this data. Now, asset management is data driven. It can't be emotion driven because we are responsible for our investors' money. We have to make money. That's our job. That's our business plan is to buy the complex, make improvements, increase the rents, increase the occupancy, give money to the investors. And she was really hindering what we were doing. So we decided that we needed to start looking around for another property management company. And so we started the process again of interviewing. Now we have a property management company that we really like at other properties, and they did kind of a lease up for us where we had a property that had like 50% occupancy. It wasn't one that high caliber. We're part of the GP, but we weren't the driving factor on that property because we buy properties that are cash flowing. So this is not one that we would have sought out. Had a lot of drug dealers, had a lot of delinquencies. Um, but we are there as asset managers, and so we have this property management company, and they turned it around. I mean, it was insane how quickly they were able to turn it around. They evicted the drug dealers. The people were so happy to see, that the police came, that they were actually escorting people off. They had one man that was kind of crazy, and he had snakes all in his apartment, including rattlesnakes, which are illegal to have in your home because they're poisonous. So, so they really needed to clean out that apartment complex. So they did, and they brought the occupancy up. In fact, it got brought up to, I think we are at 93%. So we went from like high 40s, low 50s up into the 90s. And they did it in less than a year, which is really quick. So we decided that we were going to hire them and have them replace uh, the first property management company. And what's significant about it is we recognized the signs. We knew that there was something going on because she wasn't doing leases. There wasn't retention. She was doing the activities, which I think she just personally enjoyed doing the activities. So I think that was a good fit for her, but she didn't believe in our business plan. And that really is critical that when you're hiring someone that they believe in your business plan. Even though we were meeting, like I was meeting with the owner of the property management company and he believed in what we were doing, it did not trickle down through his company, through the person that ended up being our office manager. And so I do remember calling him about 2 months before we replaced them, and I told him, she is going to cost you the property if you don't do something different because we're not leasing. It's an interesting thing because this is the second time I've actually had this. We have another property that we purchased, and the on-site that we hired actually lived on the property. So she was a resident. Well, we bought the property. She applied for the job through the property management company, and they hired her. And it was great because she lived there. So here we have someone that lives on site. The problem was she didn't believe in our business plan either. And she had people that were friends there. They would come knocking on her door. Remember, she lived on site. So now they'd come knock on her door and say, hey, why is this happening? Why are they raising my rent? And had a long conversation with that property management company, which is different from all the other ones we've been talking about. And I just said, you have to let her go. She's not leasing. She doesn't believe in the plan, and it's stressing her out. I could tell by talking with her that it was stressing her out, that she felt like she was being disloyal to the residents when it was time for them to renew. And one of the things that I really want to stress that when we renew is we just don't say, hey, we're increasing your rent. We always offer an incentive for renewal. So we do something that's going to let them know that we appreciate them staying another year. And it's something that's going to make their home better. So it might be a ceiling fan in a bedroom. It might be lighting fixture in the kitchen, or it might be a gooseneck faucet in the kitchen, or a new mirror in the bathroom. But we want to do something, and it's usually around $100. That's kind of our benchmark for that. So they renew their lease, and we also give them this incentive as a show of our appreciation for them renewing their lease. So you want to make sure that you do that, that your residents know that, we're glad that you're here. We're glad that you're able to, that you're able to renew and to stay. So going back to the original one, we put in our second property management company, and they started leasing like crazy. Like, we don't have enough inventory. We have a waiting list. We have people that want to move in, and we don't have units that are ready because we're upgrading units as they are vacant. And I found out the delinquencies. I don't know if it bugs you guys that she was always, but it was baffling to me how she could do it. And the way I found out was we had a woman come in to the new office manager and said, I'm not paying these late fees. Um, you know, I've never been charged late fees. And the office manager said, well, your rent is due on the 4th. And if you don't pay it by the 4th, there is a late fee. And then if you don't pay it within 3 days, then you do get a 3-day notice to evict, which means after on the 7th, they get a notice to evict. So it just says, hey, if you don't pay by the end of the month, you are going to be evicted. Because we're not just going to walk up one day and go, okay, you didn't pay your rent, you're out. So it gives them plenty of time. It's the 7th of the month. There's at least 30 days. 1 month has 28. They've got time to figure out how they're going to pay their rent. So it's not something that we spring on them. And so she was like, I have never gotten a 3-day notice. I've lived here for years. I have never paid a late fee, and I pay my rent when I get my money. And so what we discovered is she was not charging late fees. And she was just telling them, just pay it by the end of the month. Pay your rent by the end of the month, and I won't charge you late fees. And I won't charge you, like, if you have to go to evictions, I won't charge you. And so that's how she was doing it, is she was telling them that they would not have to pay the late fee. Now we've got a real problem, because now we have this resident that's lived there for a couple of years who pays her rent whenever she decides she's good and ready to pay, and she never pays a late fee. So now what we're doing is we're having to go back and say, okay, we understand that that was the way, but that is not what is in your lease. So if you would like a copy of your lease, if you want to come in, we'll show it to you, because they sign a lease and they have to initial where it says they know that if they're late, that they're going to have to pay a late fee. And it's different in different states. Sometimes the late fee is a flat, like $150. Sometimes it's 10% of the rent. Sometimes it's $50 for one day and then $10 for every day after, up to a certain amount. We don't worry about that, because that's not what we do. We don't have to worry about that. That's what the property management company does. And so, but there is a late fee. So I was able to finally figure out how she did that. And it's because she was using it as leverage for them to pay their rent, which on one hand is a good thing, because everyone paid their rent and they had high occupancy. But on the other hand, that is cash that we're having to chase. And I do not believe in chasing after money. People need to pay their rent. Once they pay their rent, that's great. If they don't pay, then we have to chase them. We have to call them. We have to put a notice on their door. We have to, stop by. And so we have to chase the money, which cost us money in the end because we're paying the office manager to lease, not to chase. And so those are two different properties that we saw the signs that they weren't leasing, they did not buy into the business plan. And one of the things that we do, is when you're there and you're talking with them in person, so either it's your due diligence or you've purchased it and you're there, at takeover, talk with your property manager, the person that's actually sitting there engaging with your residents, and find out how do they feel about the property. And I, I, I probably should have picked up on it sooner because there were some things that I found out in that after we had bought it, and I did my little sit down with her, telling her we were glad that she was staying with us and, going to be the office manager. She was getting paid under the table by the other owner for a lot of just small things, but it all adds up and we don't pay under the table. We have payroll. That's what payroll's for. And so I should have known then. Well, I kind of knew then we were going to have some problems, so I kept watching her. But we did try to give her the benefit of the doubt and really try and make sure that that when we let her go, that it really was valid because we don't want anyone to lose their job if they have the ability to do it. But both of the ones that we replaced, we did have them spend a week with their own bosses and see how things were going. So it's a very interesting case study. And I don't really want to tell you, but it cost us money because think about the occupancy. We've got some now that have been vacant for, 60 days. And, every month that goes by that we don't have someone in there, that costs us money, which in turn is less that we can send to the investors. So we're playing a little bit of a catch up with this because of her not leasing the units. And so I hope that this kind of gives you some ideas of what to look for, what questions to ask. If you want the questionnaire, just drop it in the chat that you'd like the questionnaire, and we'll make sure that you get that. If you're watching this on our website, because we do upload all of these on our website. So if you're watching on the website, just drop us an email and we'll send that to you. It's an Excel spreadsheet that we have created, and basically it has 3 columns. So you just do one property management company and you go through and ask the questions. And then you can do your second one so you can see side by side all the way across the board, what they are, what they're charging for, what their policies are. I'm going to let Tyler talk to you a little bit about that questionnaire because he has his own experience with that.
Yeah. Just a little bit of preface on that too. We are currently in the process of reworking it, so it might be a Word doc, and it might look a little bit better than Excel. So we'll see what happens with that. We're trying to make it a little bit more beautiful. Right now, it's very utilitarian, and it will get the job done. But yeah, anyways, I do the underwriting and the acquisitions for High Caliber Multifamily. So I have the distinct pleasure of interviewing every property management company that we come in contact with as a preliminary to the final interview where we sit down with the KPs on the deal and decide if this is the property management company that we want to go with. Fun fact, most of the time, like Cindy said, we do interview 3 plus property management companies. So this one that we ended up having to get rid of and bring in another one, it was our 5th property management company that we interviewed for that area. Sometimes you have to go through 5 interviews to find one that you think is going to really crush it, because your mission, vision, and values all have to line up with that property management company. And I will tell you, 3 of them were like the sleaziest property management companies I have ever talked to, and they were all in the same area. And I even had one of them meet with the KPs, and I was like, I don't think you're going to like this guy, but they're like, we need to, for our own sake, we need to go through this process. And they met with the guy, and they're like, yeah, no, there's absolutely no way we're moving forward with this one. So sometimes you can just kind of feel it out through that. But the real thing with the property management questionnaire is that, and I found out the hard way, every single question on this questionnaire should be asked and should have an answer to it. Started this when I didn't really know a whole bunch about the asset management side. And so I asked the questions I thought were pertinent to what we were trying to accomplish, right? So I think there's like 35 questions or something. It's a lot. And I was like, I asked like 25 of them, and I skipped like 10 because they just didn't really fit what we were trying to talk about, what we were trying to do. And in the end, I came back to Cindy and I said, okay, here's the companies that I interviewed. Here's how I scored them. Here's who I think is the best fit. And she's like, well, this question that you skipped, why'd you skip it? And I'm like, well, it just didn't really fit. And she was like, well, we need to know for this side of the asset management. And I was like, butts. All right. I will find those answers out. And then I had to go back to the property management companies and ask all of them like 10 more questions. So I've definitely found, like, when you're interviewing a property management company, it's very, very easy to have just a really comfortable conversation. Let the conversation kind of guide you through the process. They want to talk about their business. You want to ask about their business. So it's a very good process like that. But when you kind of wind down on the end, you just hit them with like, hey, I got some very specific questions I want to ask you. Do you have like 10 minutes to go through these with me? And I'm just going to kind of rapid fire them at you to make sure that we're all on the same page. And you kind of just wrap it up with the missing questions. But most of the time, it's a very easy flowing conversation. But yes.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is just look at the questions. It's a conversation that you have. You can work those questions in, but you will find at the end that there are about 10. And I just always say, okay, I got 10 more questions. I'm just going to ask you, and you just say yes or no, whatever. And so we can, we'll be done with the call. So, and it's okay, and if they don't want to take the time to answer, guess what? You don't want to hire them. So that's always a good tell. And sometimes when I have been interviewing, I don't finish the questionnaire because of the answers that they have given me so far. Like, I'm going down and I'm thinking, this isn't going to be a good fit. So I don't waste their time. I don't waste my time. I just say, well, thank you so much. We're interviewing several property management companies in your area, and we'll get back with you. But thank you. So don't feel like you have to totally complete it. If they've answered questions that you're like, this isn't going to work for what I'm trying to do for my business plan, then don't even continue. Don't waste your time. Go. But you need 3 good interviews. That's why it took 5. I do remember the one that we did meet with, and I don't know, I kind of likened him to like a 1970 used car salesman. Like, he had really slick shoes and I don't know. It's just, he was not going to work for us. I could already tell that wasn't going to happen. So,
Yeah, one thing, because like Cindy said, right, like cutting the conversation off early is not a bad thing. I've interviewed plenty of property management companies where I ask them about their business and they're like, hey, we do mostly like Airbnb. And it's like, I just don't think that we're going to fit with what you do. Your business model is totally different. And we're asking you to take over a 200 unit multifamily complex. The marketing that you have to do on that is significantly different than an Airbnb. And so you just say like, hey, I just don't think our visions align on this. And I don't think your business model is what we're offering and what you're looking for. So I'm just going to save us some time. And, like, hey, do you know any property management companies that do multifamily? Yeah. And ask them for a referral. And if they give you something, great. If they don't, then You saved them probably 50 minutes and you saved yourself 50 minutes or more because you're going to ask them to do a lot more once you get done talking to them. So,
And that applies not only for Airbnbs, but companies that specialize in single family homes. Because how you advertise for a single family home is so different than how you advertise for multifamily. So you want to make sure that they have a good number of multifamily units under their belt. So, and it's all, and unfortunately, it really is driven by the strategy of the marketing because that's how you have to get your name out there, how people can find the property. And it's just different than how you would do a single family. So I will say that we often use apartments.com and we use Zillow and we also use, excuse me, we use Facebook Marketplace. Now, Facebook Marketplace, you cannot be a business, so often the leasing agent will do a personal page and market through Facebook, but we get a lot through Facebook, Zillow, apartments.com, and then obviously your website. Um, you want people to be able to Google it, that you want them to, that property to pop up, on Google. How do you increase your exposure when people type in, apartments in Phoenix, Arizona? How do you get up at the top? Google reviews. If you think about today, when you get ready to go out to dinner, most people are going to go on Yelp or they're going to say they're going to Google, best restaurants, top 5 restaurants in my area, and it comes up by review. So we are really, really strong on getting reviews. That's reviews for maintenance, reviews for leasing, reviews for the property itself, every community activity. And the easiest way to do that is to create a QR code for the apartment complex. We have it up in the office. And then anytime we do some sort of activity, we always pull it out so it's right there. And if people are saying, oh my gosh, this is like the best barbecue we've had, hey, leave us a review. When they're complimenting you, just say, thank you so much. Would you mind leaving us a review? Because that's what's going to push you up. And so it's very important that you ask for for those reviews. You can't tell them what to say. You can't tell them how many stars to give. You can't even give them anything for doing it. But you can definitely ask for it. Just a general, would you mind giving us a review?
the
So,
mentality that you have to have around that is removing barriers of entry. So if you think about like an experience where you go to, like for instance, Texas Roadhouse, right? And when you're done eating at Texas Roadhouse, they have a little kiosk. You pay at the kiosk at the table, and immediately it goes, how was
mhm.
your experience? 1 to 5 stars. I always rate them because there's no barrier to entry. I don't have to like jump through a bunch of hoops. And that's the goal for our residents is that they scan this piece of paper, it takes them to the review site, they write a review and they're done. When you start to stack on more barriers to entry, it just becomes too much of a hassle. Like why do you want me to go through all of this to do it if I had a good experience? Now, the people that are going to leave a review, if there's too many barriers to entry, the people that had a terrible experience, those are the ones that are going to put stuff up.
But we want the good ones there. So we want to make it super easy. And so that's why we use the QR code. And we just have it, we have it where maintenance, they leave a little card, we repaired your faucet today. We hope everything was a good experience. Here's the QR code. You can leave us a review. So it's just right there and it's super easy. And it's like Tyler said, you don't want them to have to put it in their name and their email and all that because no one wants to do that anymore. It's just like click QR code and be done. So, what did you guys think of our case study? Did you get some insight today? Take yourselves off mute. We want to hear from you.
It was definitely interesting on how that worked out. Very unfortunate for you guys, but also silver lining, you learned from your mistakes. obviously. Curious to know, I know you said that the property manager, there was no late fees, right? But she just made sure they paid by the end of the month. So was that how it wasn't misconstrued in like their rent roll or their like financial
Yes,
during due diligence? That's why
yes,
you couldn't see it?
yes, because she
Okay.
never put it in. And
Okay.
she had, because I think she had Appfolio and had it set up, because most of them are just set up where they'll automatically charge a late fee. The date has come and gone. Now you have a late fee. Well, she had it set up where it did not automatically charge that late fee. So that's why we couldn't track it because there wasn't a reversal. Because if it had gone in automatically, we would have seen where she would have gone in when we went through the general ledger to see that there was a reversal. The one thing that we never saw was a late fee, but it just didn't hit our. That will never happen again. That will always be on the front of our minds this time. The next time we have to do this, but we just never, it just did not click that there's no late fees. And we know people are late. People are always late. I mean, things happen. And one of the things that we try as we go from a complex to a community is communication. And one of our properties, I knew we had reached that mark, that we had become a community when none of the properties we've talked about today, but a different one. Um, the leasing agent called me and she said, "You're not going to believe this. I had this person come in today and they told me rent's not due yet. And they told me I'm going to be late. This is when I'm going to be able to pay it. I just wanted to let you know." And I knew at that moment that we had really achieved that community, that she felt comfortable enough coming in to the leasing agent and just saying, "I just want to let you know where I'm at." And it wasn't after the fact, it was before the fact. And that's really what we want. We want them to communicate. So, because we work with people and there's different programs. One program that's out there is called Flex Pay. You can't be late, you have to be on time to do it, but you sign up for it and you make a half a payment. And then 2 weeks later, you make the second half a payment, and then Flex makes the payment. And so that way, every 2 weeks, they're making half a rent payment. So, and sometimes that helps for people that get paid every other Friday. It's much easier. Um, I know I personally do that with my mortgage. If you do that with your mortgage, if you have a 30-year mortgage and you do that, you pay every 2 weeks, you cut 7 years off your mortgage. You have a 21-year mortgage by doing that. So I know that it works. It works for us personally, and then it can also work for our residents. So, but yeah, we never thought to look, well, there's no late fees, but that won't pass me again.
Well, you don't think about looking for late fees because there's no delinquency. And if there's no
Right.
delinquency, there's no late fees.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So,
had she charged them, she would had to have reversed them. So that's how she got around it. I knew it though. I was just like, I kept telling everyone, there is something, there's no way this is happening month over month, year over year. It's not possible.
well, in our defense, that property, even with the new property manager and charging late fees, we still don't have delinquencies.
That is true.
So, I mean,
Well,
where
this
there's a
one
will,
lady we
there's a way.
might, because she says, "I'm not paying it." So we might have her for her late fees
We
because
might
she's
have our
already
first
dug her heels
delinquency.
in. Is there any other questions that we can ask her for you guys? It doesn't have to be asset management, anything with multifamily, or how can we help you move your needle?
We did set aside the last 15 minutes of this for you. So this is a great opportunity for you to come off mute and talk about anything that you want to.
Well, I forgot to say thank you for
Oh,
presenting this to us and for taking your time to do this very cool once a month, a day or a day in the life of an asset manager. Um, and I'm Catherine, by the way. I came across you guys through Hans and Hitomi. I'm in their
okay.
underwriting to win mentorship program currently.
Mhm.
And so my question is, As someone that's trying to pave in a new market, not my backyard because I am in Florida, so I thought Florida was not a good market to start in with. So um, I'm prematurely looking into Tennessee. So my question to you guys, how do you, I guess, how do you, maybe Tyler, since you're the one that interviews the property managers when you acquire a new property, if you were to start to in a new market that you've never been in before, how would you get, or I guess how would you find a property management to interview? So that's one of the struggles I'm going through is that there's not a strong online presence of property management because I saw like the single family short-term rental, and that's obviously not the business plan. So I don't know if maybe you get like word of mouth from brokers or what's your what do you usually do to find a property management to interview?
Yeah, the answer is yes. Um, when I'm looking at a new area that we're going to be looking at property managers in, the first thing that I do is I reach out to the network of people that I do have. So like I reach out to Cindy and see if she knows anybody. I reach out to the other GP members that I'm connected to. Do you guys know anybody in that area? I ask the broker, hey, what are the good property management companies in this area? That is usually something that they'll give you right off the rip. Like, hey, I see a lot of things that I sell. And they usually have a pretty good idea of expense ratios and things that are coming off of them. But I mean, all of them are going to be based upon you going in and interviewing them and really figuring out if it's the right company for you. And then last but not least, looking on the internet, right? Like, if you don't use AI, use AI. Okay. It is a fantastic tool. It today is the worst that it will be going forward. Okay. Think about that. With all of the stuff that you can do with AI, today it's going to be the worst ever that it will be going forward. It's only going to get exponentially better. If you're using ChatGPT and you pay for a subscription, cancel it and get Claude and pay for subscription with Claude. Claude is 10,000 times better. I'm a huge Claude fan. So, but you also, it depends on what you're doing, right? Like different tools for different things that you're doing. It doesn't create great PowerPoints or images. You have different tools that do that, but general research and stuff, Claude is great. So I would type into Claude.
Can you spell the Claude? I don't know if you're saying Claude or Quad.
Claude, yeah. I'll put it in the chat. So with that, I would put in the address to the apartment complex that I'm looking at buying and say, I'm looking at purchasing this. I need a property management company to run it. Can you give me the top 5 multifamily property management companies in this area? And it will spit out the top 5. And then you can compare it to the list that you got from your GP, from your connections, from posting in like MFM on their like Facebook page, or RE Mentor on their Facebook page, or Claude and Hitomi, Hans and Hitomi, asking them, do you know any property management companies in this area? And then compare that list against it. And you might have to go and preliminary have conversations with like 10 companies. You don't have to fully interview them for that, but just kind of feel them out, see where they're at, and then pick your top, 3 or 4, and then move forward with those.
And if you're not doing it that way, you could do it the old-fashioned way in that you could go to apartments.com and look at complexes around the complex you're underwriting and see who is managing those. And then you can contact those, because sometimes if they're managing a complex that's only 2 or 3 miles away, they might give you a good deal on managing yours because they're not being stretched across town or whatever. So I'm sure you can put that in Claude and it will do that for you. But because you want to, if you keep them kind of clustered. So I know we have in Mississippi, we have 4 properties, but we have 1 property management company because it's all in one town and they manage all 4 properties. And because of that, we get a discount. So.
But yes, thank you. That's a great question.
Yeah. Good luck with your underwriting. You can always talk to Tyler. He's a great underwriter. So,
Thank
yep.
you. I'll keep that in mind.
Yep. Just go on the website and the High Caliber Multifamily, and you can book an appointment with him, and he'll help you. I'm going to pitch just for a second, Tyler. He'll help you find, deficiencies or things that you might have overlooked. And that's what, I mean, the more eyes you get on something, the better it is. And so, yeah, I would definitely, if you have something that you're really trying to nail down, set up an appointment with Tyler. So,
And I will let you know whether it's something we're interested in and we could potentially sponsor, or if it's like, hey, it's a good deal. We wouldn't do it, but somebody might, and potentially steer you in the right direction of the right people.
yeah.
Perfect. That was a follow-up question. Was wondering if you guys sponsored.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, we do.
Hi
All
guys,
right.
Dwayne here. I actually found you guys as well through Hans and Hitomi. I am also in their underwriting program.
Okay.
Awesome.
And Catherine, I guess nice to meet you as well. I don't think we met on the program.
Likewise, yeah. I've
Super
seen you
cool.
on the Facebook group, but yes, nice to meet you.
Awesome. Yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you guys for providing. This is my first time on your call, and super insightful. I mean, who would have thought, right? Just I guess what you guys explained as far as the delinquencies, not even looking in that area. So it's
Yeah.
definitely a good thing to keep in the radar of entering these properties. I guess the question kind of just onto that last point you made of having property managers in the same vicinity. Would there be any kind of discrepancy with, you got the same manager working for another owner across the street? Maybe it's a similar type of apartment, and hey, you should rent here versus here, or is there kind of a competition in that sense, or should I not even worry about something like that, if that question makes sense?
It does make sense. So what we have uh, in our Mississippi properties, they don't compete against each other, even though it's the same ownership, because if one is full, they will send them to the other. So they do cross refer, and so I mean that's something that the property management would work out, that if this property is full and they're going to send you over here, they may pay this on-site a referral fee. So I do know sometimes I've heard that it could be a problem. I've never really experienced that, but that isn't something I would really worry about unless they maybe had a monopoly, and you would always be the last on the list. But and that could be part of your question when you're, interviewing them, is I know that you have a property 2 miles away. Will that create a conflict of interest for you?
Yeah. So our Mississippi properties, we've kind of created an ecosystem there where we have four properties and they're all fairly close to each other. So we're able to, using the same property management company, kind of bounce referrals to different places that have openings. To answer your question, Dwayne, when it comes to property management companies, like I have this property that's here, and then a mile away, they have a property over there. How do I know that they're not stealing the leads from my property to go source them over there, right? Like that's your question. So some of the things to keep in mind with that is, are they the same type of property? Is it in A class over there and you're running a C class, or is it a B class to B class? What does that look like? The other thing is they are self-aware enough most of the time. Sometimes property management companies aren't, but most of the time they're self-aware enough that they understand if they do not keep leases on your property, they will lose the contract. And so there could be some where it's like, oh crap, this one's falling, and they might steal some leads over there. But they have to maintain a certain percentage of occupancy at yours. And so you shouldn't have any issues with that. But if you do have issues, that's where your asset management team is very important, to be able to double check those types of things to make sure that, hey, I saw you had, 7 walkthroughs this week, you closed 0 of them. we need some answers on why that's happening. And it could be that they're saying, go live somewhere else. And then that's when you see a drop in occupancy, you see that inefficiency to close, and you move on to another property management company because clearly they're not running it the way that they should be.
Hopefully that gave you some good answers for that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Well, we wish you guys the best of luck in your underwriting and finding properties. It's getting where there are more properties becoming available on the market now. I know for a while it was really hard. Tyler was underwriting hundreds to try and find one that will work. So good luck with that. And join us next month. We're going to do another case study. It'll be about something completely different, but we'll tell you what happened and how we solved it, and then hopefully answer any questions that you may have afterwards. All right,
Awesome.
thank you so much.
Thank you guys for joining us. David, I saw your message on there. Great to have you with us. And yeah, we will see you guys next week, or not next week, next month.
Next month.
There we go. All right. Have a great day.
Bye.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.